Hi, Eric. Mommy, you're home. Yay, where's Daddy? Eric felt uneasy when he heard this question. He looked down and said, I'm not sure. What's wrong, sweetie? Are you keeping secrets with Mommy? Eric didn't say anything but continued to look down at the floor nervously. I could tell something wasn't right. I called my husband, David. Where are you? I came for a vacation with our son. I ended the call and we quickly packed our bags and left the house. Hi, my name is Caroline and I'm 40 years old. I'm married to David, who's 42 years old. We've been married for the last 10 years. David and I used to work at the same office, which is how we met. We fell in love and got married. We were a happy couple. 2 years after David and I got married, our son Eric was born, and our family felt complete. Eric is now 8 years old. Soon after we got married, David found a better job opportunity at a different company and decided to switch. I continued working at the same company, and over time, I got promoted to a senior position. This new role required me to travel for a few days each month for business trips. When Eric was 3 years old, I was offered another promotion at work. However, it came with a condition. I would need to travel for business reasons a few days each month. I hesitated to accept because Eric was still very young, and I didn't want to leave him alone. But David reassured me. Don't worry, honey. I'll take care of Eric. Are you sure? Eric is still so little. Absolutely, he's my son too. And it's just for a few days. Okay then, I'll take the promotion. David always supported my work. He would take care of Eric when I had to go on these trips. I was really thankful to David for being so caring and supportive. Everything was going well until one day my father-in-law called. Hey David, I've been thinking about stepping down from the business. I'm getting older and can't handle the stress anymore. Is everything okay, Dad? Yeah, everything's fine. I'm just realizing I'm getting older, you know. It's time for you to take over the business. David, this isn't unexpected. I've let you have your way with everything until now. But this is something you need to do for the family. Dad, you can't make me do this. I'm not making you do anything. Just consider it. How long will you keep working a regular job? The business will give you flexibility later in life. But Dad, you're my only heir. If you don't want to take over the company, I'll have to sell it because I can't handle it anymore. I didn't intend for it to sound like that. All right, then how about you start by working here for a month and see how it goes? But Dad, you've been running the business so smoothly for years. I'm worried I won't be able to manage it as well as you. You'll learn as you go along. I didn't know anything about business until I started doing it myself. Okay, Dad, I'll give my notice at work and wrap things up there. Even though David enjoyed his job, he knew he would have to take over the family business eventually. He was prepared for it, but he didn't expect it to happen so soon. After David joined the family business, I started noticing changes in his behavior. He would come home late, spend evenings on his phone by himself, and often be away on weekends. This went on for a few months. Eventually, I couldn't ignore it anymore and decided to talk to him about it. David, is everything okay with you? Yeah, what's up? I've noticed a change in your behavior over the past few months. What change? I don't understand what you're talking about. I wanted to address the issue so we could work on it together, but David seemed to brush off any problems. I became frustrated with his dismissive attitude. Don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. You come home late almost every day. And when you do come home early, instead of spending time with me or Eric, you're glued to your phone. David responded firmly, I'm busy. It's not like when I worked for a company and could finish at 7 p.m. This is my business now. I have to give it attention even after I get home. I need to coordinate with other departments over the phone. What about the weekends? Yes, sometimes we have to work on weekends too. Feeling overwhelmed, I left the room to calm down. While David's reasons made sense, I couldn't shake off my concerns. I could sense a growing distance between us, though I couldn't quite explain it to David. I decided to give him the benefit of the doubt and allow him time to adjust to the business. Besides, he was a loving father to Eric and took good care of him when I was away. He even made sure to take Eric on small vacations during my business trips. As time passed, David became even busier with the business. Sometimes he wouldn't come home at all. Despite living under the same roof, we hardly communicated. I started wondering if my work was causing this distance between us. I often felt lonely, with no one to confide in. My parents were elderly, and I didn't want to burden them with my problems. I had lost touch with most of my friends as I became preoccupied with family and work. David's presence in my life seemed minimal. My only solace was Eric. Although he was too young to understand my troubles, spending time with him brought me joy and relief. However, I began to notice changes in Eric. His grades were dropping, and he was spending excessive time playing video games. David spoiled him with expensive video games and toys, which only seemed to worsen the situation. The next time David brought home expensive video games for Eric, I couldn't help but feel concerned. I disagree, David. Eric already has plenty of video games and toys. Adding another one isn't necessary. What do you mean? Can't I give gifts to my own son anymore? What's the problem? Eric's grades have been slipping, and he's constantly distracted by video games. It's not good for his development. He's my son. He'll figure it out on his own. You don't need to interfere. He's my son too, David. I want to make sure he's raised to be educated and responsible. Are you implying that I'm irresponsible? I've been looking after Eric since he was 3 years old, while you were away on your business trips. I was taken aback by his accusation. He had willingly taken on the responsibility of caring for Eric, and as his father, it was his duty too. But it was you who encouraged me to take the promotion and said you'd take care of Eric. Yes, I did. You should appreciate my support instead of constantly criticizing me. I've always appreciated your support for me. That's why I'm still here, despite your distant behavior. His words hit me hard, and I couldn't hold back my tears. Please don't try to paint yourself as the victim here. I lost my temper and yelled at him. I'm done with you. I don't feel any affection or gratitude towards you anymore. Taking care of Eric was your responsibility as a parent. I don't owe you anything for that. David shouted back, You're so ungrateful. Women like you can never be happy or keep their husbands happy. It was the first time David had spoken to me like this. Even when we weren't getting along, he had never been cruel. But now, he seemed like a different person. His words cut deep, and I couldn't help but cry. I locked myself in the bathroom and sobbed uncontrollably. Eric overheard our argument. When he saw me locked in the bathroom for a long time, he started knocking on the door, crying, Mommy, please come out. Eventually, I washed my face, unlocked the door, and hugged him. Mommy, I was scared when you stayed in there for so long. I'm sorry, honey. I was just taking a long bath. But your hair is still dry. I chuckled and pinched his cheeks. You're quite clever, aren't you? How about spaghetti for dinner? Eric's eyes lit up. Yes, spaghetti. His excitement brought a smile to my face, pushing aside my worries. Meanwhile, David remained on the couch, engrossed in his phone. I prepared dinner for Eric and tucked him into bed. With an early flight for my business trip the next morning, I packed my bags and left a note with my travel details on David's desk. Since our relationship had grown distant, I always left a note with my travel plans for David so he could make arrangements for Eric or take him to my in-laws' house the next day. I went on my scheduled trip, but the recent arguments with David weighed heavily on my mind. I couldn't focus on my work. By the second day, I started feeling feverish and weak, so I decided to cut my trip short. I contacted my manager and explained that I was feeling unwell. They arranged for me to return home immediately. When I got back, I was looking forward to spending quality time with my son. However, when I arrived home, I found the front door locked and the lights off. I used my spare key to unlock the door and went inside. The house was dark, so I turned on the lights and headed upstairs to Eric's room. There, I found Eric playing with his video games on his bed. Hey, Eric, sweetheart. What are you doing here? And why are all the lights off in the house? Excited to see me, Eric ran over. Mommy, you're back. Yay, where's Daddy? Eric seemed uneasy when I asked about his dad. He avoided eye contact and mumbled, I don't know. When did he leave, sweetie? I'm not sure, Mommy. Dad told me not to say anything. What do you mean, honey? What's going on? Why are you keeping secrets from Mommy? Eric remained silent, his eyes fixed on the floor nervously. I could tell something wasn't right. Worried, I called my husband. David, where are you? I came for a vacation with our son. I was shocked and devastated. David had been lying to me, and Eric had heard it all. I hung up the phone, staring at David in disbelief. Eric started crying. After calming him down, Eric confessed everything to me. It was heart-wrenching to hear. Mommy, whenever you went on a trip, Daddy left me alone in the house. What? He continued sobbing as I held him close. Sweetheart, how long has Daddy been leaving you alone? When I was little, Daddy took care of me and never left me alone. But now he locks me inside the house. He leaves food in the fridge for me and gives me video games to play. And when does your father come back? Daddy comes home late at night and leaves again in the morning, Eric replied. I couldn't believe what my son had been going through while I was away. I felt guilty for leaving him in David's care. Why didn't you tell me, sweetheart? At first, Dad would leave me alone for a few hours, but he always brought back lots of chocolates and toys for me. But now he's gone for the whole day. He made me promise not to tell you anything. I hate seeing him cry like this. Okay, calm down now. Mommy's here. I'm sorry, Mommy, for getting the new video games. I kept my promise and didn't tell you anything. I'm sorry, sweetheart, that you had to go through all of this. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. What kind of father would do such a thing? David was rewarding Eric for keeping this terrible secret. I felt sick to my stomach. I couldn't bear to stay in that house any longer or let my child be around such a man. We packed our bags and left immediately. I hired an investigation agency to look into David's actions. After dropping Eric off at my aunt's house, I went to David's parents and told them everything. My mother-in-law couldn't believe that David could do such things. Caroline, please don't rush into anything. Maybe there's some misunderstanding. It's not wise to make such a big decision based solely on what Eric says. He's just a child. What do you mean? I know you're trying to help, but I can't even think about talking to David right now. How can I trust him after all this? I was too angry to grasp her suggestion properly, even though she probably meant well. Do you really believe Eric would make up something like this? And why would David lie to me about being on vacation with Eric? Well, maybe he was just caught up with work. I lost my patience and decided to lay everything out. This incident isn't isolated. Your son has been distant since he joined the family business. He comes home late, hardly spends time with Eric, and often spends his weekends away. Are you suggesting that all of this is because David joined the family business? My father-in-law interrupted. Brianna, let her speak, he said. Caroline is right. I never imagined David would change like this after joining the business. Some of my senior employees mentioned David's growing closeness with his assistant. What? Why did he tell me about this? I brushed it off as workplace gossip. People tend to enjoy spreading rumors like that, my father-in-law explained. I never thought David would do something like this. He loved you and Eric so much. I should have taken it seriously. I regret it now. Please forgive me, Caroline, he pleaded. I sat there in shock, unable to say anything. Brianna looked equally stunned. They both seemed devastated. David had always been seen as the perfect son, husband, and father. He had let everyone down. I couldn't blame my father-in-law because I, too, had never suspected David of having an affair, despite our relationship growing colder. I attributed it to our busy schedules. I had foolishly hoped that once Eric grew up and we were free from parental duties, we'd be happy together again in our retirement. But now, everything felt shattered. After leaving my in-laws' house, I started receiving calls from David. I assumed my in-laws had spoken to him. I ignored his calls and blocked his number. I stayed with my aunt for a few days while searching for a new place to live. Eventually, the investigation agency sent their reports, confirming my suspicions. David had indeed been having an affair with his assistant, Lily. He would skip work and spend the day at her place whenever I was away. I hired a lawyer and sent divorce papers along with the evidence I received from the agency. It turned out that Lily was a single mother to a 5-year-old girl. She had been divorced by her ex-husband due to an extramarital affair during her pregnancy. When she applied for her job, she portrayed herself as a victim, claiming she divorced her husband because he cheated on her while she was pregnant. Despite her lack of qualifications, my father-in-law had given her a job out of sympathy. She deceived everyone in the office with her false story. It seemed she had also used the same tale on David. However, the investigation revealed her true nature. Further digging uncovered details about her ex-husband. He had divorced Lily without providing any alimony or child support, alleging that the baby was not his. A DNA test confirmed his claim. I forwarded all these details to David through my lawyer. According to my lawyer, David was devastated by the evidence and ended things with Lily. He accused her of breaking into our house. David wasn't ready to let go of our marriage. He loved Eric deeply and couldn't bear the thought of losing him. He admitted to my lawyer that he had been influenced by Lily and begged for another chance. He also confessed that it was Lily's idea to leave Eric alone at home, mirroring her own situation with her daughter. If it had only been me hurt by David's actions, I might have considered giving him another chance. But now it was a matter of my child's safety and upbringing. I couldn't raise Eric with a father who would bribe him into lying. After enduring so much pain, I was determined to get a divorce. It wasn't just a matter of days or months. David had betrayed my trust for years, yet I had never doubted his loyalty. I couldn't forgive him for breaking that trust. I refused any settlement other than divorce. My father-in-law apologized for David's actions and supported me throughout this ordeal. The news of David's affair and our divorce spread like wildfire throughout the office, leading to gossip and speculation. Unable to bear the shame, my father-in-law removed David and Lily from the company. He took charge again for a few years before selling the company to another businessman for a substantial sum. David's name was removed from his parents' will, and instead, Eric inherited his grandfather's legacy. David was disowned by his parents as he had shattered their trust too. David relocated to another part of the city where he faced judgment from the community for his infidelity with his assistant. Meanwhile, I transferred to a different department where I didn't have to travel as much. This allowed me to balance my work and home life more effectively. I hired a full-time nanny to care for Eric, ensuring he received the attention and care he deserved. I'm considering leaving my job in a few years. I've saved enough for my retirement and want to enjoy life to the fullest with my son. My greatest wish is for Eric to grow up into an educated and responsible individual, and I'll do everything in my power to ensure he receives the best upbringing possible.